Tonight, a teenager is lucky to be alive. The story of a teen who hopped inside of a commercial jet's landing gear and survived, straight ahead.
Later, we update you on the status of the sunken ship off the Korean coast. The government is speaking out and fingers are being pointed.
Plus, the promposal that might be as viral as the Breaking Bad one we showed you last week. We have the entire video. Welcome to the MCTV Weekly News Update. I'm Amber Smith.
And I'm Brennan Weiss. We have a lot to get to tonight, so get ready as we take you across the world and around the block. A Russian foreign minister accused the Ukraine Monday of violating an agreement that was reached in Geneva just last week. This comes after a gunfight that killed at least 3 near Slavyansk, a city controlled by pro-Russian separatists. Diplomat Sergei Lavrov says this proves that Kiev and its officials are not willing to work with them. The agreement from Geneva called for an immediate end to violence in Ukraine. Lavrov also spoke about how the West should not try to impose sanctions or demand anything from Russia. He also stated that the U.S. should, quote, accept responsibility for those who brought to power.
Unfortunately, the problems facing the Ukraine are far from over. An agreement that would have lessened the problems in the country is failing. The pro-Moscow separatist gunmen who are holding the government buildings have shown no signs of letting go. This is causing significant problems between the U.S. government and Russia. The capital has released a statement saying that Moscow will be held responsible if they do not back away from the buildings. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden went to Kiev late Monday to further discuss the issue.
Over the past year, violence in Iraq has resurged, and recent suicide bombings on Monday left 33 people dead and nearly 80 others wounded. The bombings took place all over the country, but the deadliest one was in a town south of Baghdad. The bomber ran his car into a police checkpoint, killing a dozen people instantly. These attacks seem to be tied with the country's upcoming parliamentary elections. Bombings and shootings in Iraq have recently risen to a level that has been unseen since 2008. This resurgence of violence is the biggest challenge the Shiite-led government is facing as they head into the election.
This past Sunday marked the 15th year anniversary of one of the deadliest school shootings of its time. On April 20th, 1999, 2 students attacked classmates and staff at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. The massacre killed 12 students and a teacher. Both teen gunmen then killed themselves. The campus library where most of the killings took place was later demolished and replaced with a student memorial. A larger memorial was built adjacent to the campus and opened to the public in 2007.
Another shooting getting attention this week happened in the parking lot of a Georgia mall. 55-year-old Violet Lambert was shot outside of a Macy's after a reported argument with 59-year-old Danny Brown. The man not only shot her, but fired at a bystander who tried helping the victim. He was not injured. As of today, both the shooter and woman have died. Lambert died of her injuries, and Brown was found in his apartment with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
South Korean President Park Geun-hye is speaking out regarding last week's ferry tragedy. She called Captain Lee Jun's sex actions, quote, unacceptable, unforgivable actions that are akin to murder. The captain is now facing criminal charges and 7 arrests of crew members have been made. Investigators are now surrounding the fact that there were not enough lifeboats for the passengers on board. So far, 87 people have died and 250 are still missing. Diving missions are currently underway.
So I know if you think back to 2012, there was a ship called the Costa Concordia, which capsized off the coast of Italy, and this story reminds me of that, and I think it just comes down to a lack of attention on behalf of the captain, and it's a shame to think about when you think of archaic transportations, and we should be able to rely on them, and sometimes they're more dangerous than modern forms of transportation.
Right, exactly. They definitely, they said something about the lifeboats, not being enough lifeboats, life vests on board. That should have been something that was put into place way before they had gotten on the ferries. And if the ferry is a daily form of transportation, obviously that should be put into place daily and checked, maybe monthly, weekly, yearly, something like that. And it's a shame that, these forms of transportation aren't as safe as we would like them to be. People would like to go on cruise ships for their vacations and things, and it just seems that with the way things have been going lately, that the public's faith in such ways of transportation for leisure and to just get to work and stuff like that just may be diminishing.
Right, something that needs to be fixed. Well, the drama continues. Where is Malaysian Airlines Flight 370? Over 1 month later, we still just don't know. What we do know is that most of those on board Flight 370 were Chinese. Their families are growing frustrated and angry by the lack of answers. Answers the airline and the Malaysian government say they simply don't have. Yvonne Watson has more from Beijing.
Another day, another disappointment. Chinese relatives of the passengers of missing Malaysian Air Flight 370 wept, begged, and even cursed at a Malaysian diplomat in Beijing on Monday. It was another highly emotional moment for people who've been waiting more than 40 days for news of their missing loved ones. Chinese relatives of the missing passengers, they came to a meeting at a Beijing hotel on Monday, expecting a long-awaited meeting with a team of Malaysian technical experts. But they reacted with anger and fury when a Malaysian diplomat announced a last-minute change of plans. There would be no technical expert delegation.
The authorities in Malaysia would like to move forward in their endeavor to address the missing flight MH370. Within the next 24 hours, a group of people composed both of government and mass management are expected to arrive in Beijing to directly meet and consult all the next of kin and the family members on their plan to deal with this difficult issue with the family members.
Last week, Malaysian officials pledged to send technical experts to answer questions about the last moments the Malaysian Airlines plane was believed to be in the air. Chinese families want to know the manufacturer and serial number of the plane's black box, and they want to know whether or not the plane's emergency locator transmitters began working at the moment that the plane impacted or was believed to impact the Indian Ocean.
We don't know at this point whether they're alive or dead. And you haven't given us any direct proof of where they actually are. We want our loved ones back.
It's not just relatives of the 153 Chinese nationals who were on board the missing plane who are angry at the lack of information. The partner of the lone adult American passenger lashed out in a letter, writing that more than 40 days after the plane disappeared, no meaningful report on the progress of the investigation has been given. Malaysian officials say they're doing the best they can. Ivan Watson, CNN, Beijing.
The State Department is beginning its second top-down self-review, known as the Quadrennial Diplomacy and Development Review. This review was first launched in 2010 under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Secretary of State John Kerry says this year's review will outline the department's policy priorities and how to put those policies into action. The review is meant to balance a similar review by the Defense Department that projects their strategy and priorities.
On a lighter note, we all know about the powdered sports drinks that are becoming popular in the supermarket these days, but it turns out the liquor companies are jumping on this trend. Recently, the federal government mistakenly approved a new form of alcohol that comes in powdered form. Palcohol, as it's being called, raised a lot of excitement from consumers. Come on, who wouldn't want to easily prepare their favorite cocktails at home? There is, however, concern that because this new form is a powder, many, including teens, may start abusing the new form by snorting it instead of drinking it. Because of the mistake by the federal government, the liquor companies now have to resubmit all the paperwork for the new drink. But it looks like approval for alcohol may not be that far away. So, my first question is, how can the federal government mistakenly approve a new form of alcohol?
I have no idea, but what else have they mistakenly approved and not read and just put their signatures on? Also, it's dangerous, and they could snort it. They could, it's tiny, so they can be taking it underage.
Right, and I also think it's interesting to see when this does come about, if at all, how most students will strategize and come up with different techniques to sneak this into dorm rooms and parties.
Right, exactly. Oh, Dan the Weatherman Cohen will be here with your weekly highs and lows report. Spring has sprung, it seems, folks.
Thank you very much, guys. So, we had quite a shaky weather this weekend as Papua New Guinea was hit with two earthquakes in 3 days. So what ended up happening was an island just off of Papua New Guinea. If you look at the map here, if I step aside, Papua New Guinea is highlighted in the red. If you look just off the map, their island was hit with two, one on Saturday, which registered 7.5, and one again yesterday, which registered a 5.3. This place has been hit 6 times and since the new year. Now, the volcano activity that stretches around the Pacific Rim is very active in this area. The earthquake registered a 7.5, as I told you before, and that's U.S. Geological Survey that reported the earthquake that was hit yesterday at a 5.3. Back on our side of the world, spring has sprung here in Poughkeepsie, but that is not true for all of America. As seen here, the jet stream is driving southward, allowing a low-pressure mass to form over the Idaho-Montana region. This will bring some colder air and Pacific moisture into the northwestern part of America. The elevated regions will see snow accumulations getting as much as a foot by Thursday. The Cascades and Northern Rockies could see snow as low as 3,000 feet above sea level, which is pretty low for this time of year. This may be the last opportunity for all you skiers out there to see some fresh powder, so get at it while you can. Now let's take a look at our local weather. It was a wet one today, but not as bad as it was supposed to be. That could continue into the night, as right now it's partly cloudy with some dissipating showers, and it will get down to about 45 overnight. Even with some of the showers today, we were above the average for April 22nd, both the high and the low. We'll have to come close to those record highs for this year, as it's yet to be 87 degrees in 1973, and it was 24 in 81. The sunrise this morning was at 6:05, and the sunset was a few hours ago at 7:44. As we take a look at tomorrow, it'll be windy as the clouds persist from today, and the temperature will only get up to 56. The wind will consistently blow at about 20 miles an hour and could gust as high as 30. Taking a look at our 7-day forecast now, this week is not looking real great. It is going to be about, it's going to be about 56 coming into Friday and Saturday. I'm going to let you look at Sunday and Monday now, as we'll get up to about 61 degrees. And if the rain disappears, we could actually have a halfway decent weekend. That's your highs and lows reports with Dan, the weatherman, Cohen. What do you guys think about the weather coming up?
First off, sorry, Dan, the weatherman. I almost stole all your spotlight there for a second. I think that spring has finally sprung. Hopefully it'll stay. Hopefully we won't have any more of this crazy weather. Global warming is real, people. We wouldn't be having this crazy weather at this time of year if it wasn't.
And please tell me, Dan, the weatherman, can I wear shorts for the rest of this week?
It's
Yes
a
or
little
no?
bit. It's a little bit early. It might come around late in the week, Friday, Saturday, but I would say you're in pants for the next couple days.
All right, because I can't stand this fluctuating anymore because I know myself and others are getting sick, so we need constant warm weather from here on out.
I took my flip-flops out. I don't plan on putting them away. Okay, Mother Nature? No more.
So hopefully next week it'll turn up for us.
Thanks
Hopefully.
a lot. Speaking of nature, the death toll continues to rise following the avalanche on Mount Everest Friday. Scott Thompson has the latest.
Another Sherpa guide has died as a result.
No, they just were
of
nowhere
Friday
near my
morning's
script when I came up on
avalanche
prompter.
in the Khumbu Icefall, just above Mount Everest's base camp.
A serac, which is a hanging glacier on the west shoulder, cut loose and then swept down and wiped them out.
It's the single deadliest accident on Everest, with more than a dozen people killed, half a dozen injured, and more still missing. The group caught in the avalanche was composed of about 50 Nepalese locals and Sherpas. They were preparing the advanced camps for spring climbing season, the busiest of the year.
About 1% of everyone who leaves base camp is not going to come back. And as a workplace safety statistic, that's pretty much off the charts.
In the past few decades, climbers' safety has improved. The number of people who reached the summit topped 100 for the first time in 1993. That increased to more than 300 by 2004, and more than 500 people scaled Everest in 2012.
We've come a long way, but it's still just as dangerous as it's ever been.
Prior to Friday, Everest's deadliest accident was in May 1996, when 8 climbers disappeared during a storm. John Krakauer documented that tragedy in his best-selling book and its film adaptation, Into Thin Air. I'm Scott Thompson reporting.
One California teenager's attempt at running away from home is soaring to new extremes. A 16-year-old boy hopped a fence at San Jose Airport and snuck into the wheel well of a Hawaiian Airlines flight. This part of the airplane is unpressurized and unprotected. The boy stowed away for the 5-hour flight and was allegedly passed out for most of the trip. He was found wandering the Maui airport tarmac after the flight landed. He was taken into custody and appears to have no injuries. Nobody is pressing charges at this time. My first question would be, how the heck did he hop a fence, get past security, get past other people in the airport, and go unnoticed, go unharmed?
I have no idea, but this story reminds me of a 9-year-old kid who was in the news last year who was sneaked on a flight from Minnesota to Las Vegas and breached security just as a 16-year-old kid did. So it's crazy to think in a post-9/11 world how sometimes even kids 9 years old or 16 years old can breach security and get through the system.
Right, exactly. It's a scary thought. Like, what can we take on these planes if we could put human beings on these planes and not realize they're there?
Exactly. This year, Meb Keflezighi's triumphant win marks the first time since 1983 that an American has won the Boston Marathon. Keflezighi completed the marathon in 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 37 seconds, according to the marathon's Facebook page. The Star-Spangled Banner played as he crossed the finish line. The man ran in honor of the 2013 bombing victims and featured their names on his bib. He said that by the end of the race, he just kept thinking, quote, "Boston strong, Boston strong."
Gwen Stefani could soon have a new job, and the First Lady heads to the small screen. Shelby Lynn has these stories and more in our Hollywood Minute.
Gwen Stefani is in talks to join NBC's The Voice. Variety reports the No Doubt singer will replace Christina Aguilera, who recently shared that she's pregnant. The Voice is currently in its 7th season. First Lady Michelle Obama is set to make 2 cameos in primetime. Mrs. Obama will appear on the comedy Parks and Recreation for its season finale and on an upcoming episode of Nashville. In Nashville, she plays herself as she works to throw a charity concert at Army Base Fort Campbell. Animal rights activists gathered outside actor Liam Neeson's Manhattan apartment Saturday. They're outraged over his support for New York City's carriage horse industry. The group says it's inhumane for the horses to be subjected to pollution and traffic. Neeson did not make an appearance at the protest. At the movies this weekend, Captain America: The Winter Soldier was #1 for the 3rd straight week. The superhero flick beat out the animated movie Rio 2. It came in at #2. And coming in at #3, Heaven is for Real. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Shelby Lynn.
Singer Chris Brown's assault trial is expected to get underway Wednesday. It was slated to start yesterday after the trial for Brown's bodyguard ended. Here you can see sketches from the courtroom. Christopher Hollisey was convicted of assault for hitting a man who tried to take a picture of Brown outside a Washington area home last year. Brown is also accused of hitting the man. The bodyguard's attorney says he now plans to plead the Fifth.
The Obamacare plan is again under fire for another glitch in the system that is causing its online users to change their passwords. A cyber scare called Heartbleed threatens to expose people's personal information. The threat has also targeted social media websites, including Facebook and Instagram. Although there appears to be no immediate risk for current users, those who are registered for Obamacare using the healthcare.gov website will be forced to change their passwords just to be safe.
The movement to legalize marijuana is blossoming in an Alaskan territory. A vote to push the drug into the state, which already offers legalized medical marijuana, has been postponed until November of this year. The petition developed by Alaskan citizens made the primary ballot for August, but it is expected to be pushed back in the timetable. If passed, Alaska will join Colorado and Washington as the 3rd state to fully legalize marijuana. So if you look at a map of the U.S. today, there are currently 21 states, including the District of Columbia, that have medical marijuana legalized, and I think Alaska has a pretty good chance of joining Colorado and Washington and becoming the 3rd state to approve recreational marijuana.
I think it's also a good way to bring in tax money. I mean, I don't really know what we would use the tax money for, but hopefully for some good things, you know? And I do know that in this past fall, New York was thinking of doing the same thing, and it was about a 50-50 split, the opinions of people that people of New York had on it. So maybe we're the next state, who knows? A study by the name of the American Medical Association reports that doctors who engage in patient care contribute more than $1 trillion in economic product. The study also reports that doctors provide more economic output, legal positions, and jobs in higher education. AMA President Ardis Hoven states, quote, "The new AMA study illustrates that physicians are strong economic drivers who are woven into their local communities by jobs, commerce, and taxes that they generate."
A day of snowmobiling in the New England wilderness turned into a frightening encounter with a moose for a Maine couple, and the entire attack was caught on camera. Ray Brewer shows us the amazing video.
Bob and Janice Powell say they'll often see a moose when they're out riding. The couple insists they were not chasing the animal, just riding like they normally do.
Generally, you'll get behind the moose and you'll just follow him for a short distance and the moose will just jump off the trail.
But not this time. The moose stops in the trail. Janice Powell says she knew something wasn't right.
His fur was standing up, his ears were back, his head went low, and definitely knew something was up.
and then the animal charged.
The only thing I could think of is what I had to put between myself and the moose. And unfortunately, that was just the snowmobile.
Powell says the moose actually grazed him as he retreated to his wife's snowmobile. Janice had a .380 pistol that she carries for personal protection. She got the gun out, but hesitated to fire.
I knew what size gun I had and that I might make it even more angry. And two, I don't want to harm another animal if I don't have to.
Her husband suggested that she fire a shot in the air. So she did, and after a brief moment, the animal finally goes away. The Powells believe that the moose was sick.
That moose actually was a little bit mangy. It had lost a lot of hair, and after it left, we noticed a lot of blood splatter in the trail.
As for what they've learned as a result of the encounter,
we both have a new appreciation for moose and wildlife in general, and we'll definitely be keeping more of a distance.
Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
This Easter weekend, festivities got a little out of hand for one Pittsburgh couple. 27-year-old Aaron Gumpol was arrested for at an egg decorating party. It is reported that after his girlfriend accused him of cheating, he threw hard-boiled eggs at her. When the police showed up, he attempted to attack the officer with knives, resulting in his arrest. He is being charged with simple and aggravated assault. Hopefully next year there will be fewer rotten eggs in Gumpol's Easter basket.
Facebook is ready to take their definition of friendship to the next level. The social media company has introduced a feature known as Nearby Friends, which allows those using the app to track where their friends are in real time. The new feature is not a default setting, but Facebook hopes that it will encourage people to seek out their friends and have more face-to-face interactions. The app also only works in certain locations at this time.
Some promposals are crazy, but have you ever gotten in trouble for popping the pre-college question? Well, for Pennsylvania high school senior Patrick Favre, the answer is yes. While Miss America winner Nina Davour was participating in a question and answer session at Central York High School, 18-year-old Favre stood up and asked her to be his date. Check it out.
I know you had several questions, so you can go to where are the questions.
Miss America, I have
No, guys, excuse me. It's the students that we have.
Favre was later given a 3-day in-school suspension for disrupting the assembly. Teens are erupting with anger on social media over the punishment and giving Favre major kudos for taking a chance.
A 16-year-old British girl recently captured a video of what looks to be a UFO on her iPhone. The video was taken in the town of Leamington Spa in the UK. It shows a black ring moving extremely slowly in the skyline above the trees. Ben Hansen, a former FBI agent and host of Sci-Fi Channel's Fact or Faked, Paranormal Files, sent the Huffington Post a statement by email. It stated that the supposed UFO was actually generated by a device that produces combustion. Producing rings of smoke, you can decide if the flying saucer the teen captured is really from outer space. So I have a beef with UFOs. A lot of people during a debate about UFOs, they say, oh, I believe in them or I don't believe in them. But you can't, because UFO is a technical term, unidentified flying object. I could throw any object in this room in the air, and if you don't know what it is, it's a UFO. So I think it's not really a debate.
Right, exactly. And it could be pollution, it could be anything. It doesn't mean that aliens are coming down from the sky and they're going to abduct us all and we're all going to create a new colony on a different planet. So I do agree with you. It could be a number of things. Just like you said, the effects, the pollution, anything. It could be really anything.
Exactly. Well, that's all the news we have for you tonight. Until next time, I'm Brennan Weiss.
And I'm Amber Smith. Be sure to tune in to our live news update next week on Tuesday, April 29th. See you there.